Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for my continued followers, I want to say thank you. This is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears to some of the crazy things that take place throughout our cities, states, sometimes our country, and around the world. And this one is straight out of Tennessee, where a rookie female cop, 28 years old, is described as cop gone wild. Cop gone wild, 28, will get $500,000 payday after suing city, claiming she was sexually groomed by her predator superiors after she was fired for SX romps with 7 officers. Tennessee cop gone wild Maegan Hall settled her lawsuit in the city of Laverne for $500,000 after she was fired when an internal probe revealed her raunchy romps with at least 6 male officers that involved games of strip uno and foot fetish photos. The 28-year-old was fired in January 2023 after it was first discovered that she had sexual relationships with several cops in the suburban Nashville department, some who have been terminated, others suspended. The rookie cop hit back in a federal lawsuit claiming she was groomed and abused by lascivious superiors, including Police Chief Burrell Chip Davis and Sergeant Lewis Powell, a 15-year law enforcement veteran. The $500,000 settlement includes court costs, attorney's fees, and expenses paid out by the city's insurance. The Laverne board voted 3-1 at a special meeting in favor of the lawsuit. The agreement was negotiated between the attorneys representing the city and Hall, a statement from the board said. The city denies any admission of liability and no taxpayer funds will be spent to settle this lawsuit. Laverne launched an internal inquiry late last year after a whistleblower came forward to report that a female cop, Maegan Hall, was having intimate relationships with multiple male colleagues and even on police property. In the course of the investigation, it emerged that Hall was having sex with multiple fellow officers, including Officer Lewis Powell, and that they had carried out these acts while on duty. When interviewed in the investigation, Hall said she had played games like strip uno, exchanged foot fetish photos, and played out wife-swapping sessions with fellow officers. During one interview about the affair, Hall said, "I got stupid. I got desperate, I guess, and guys are guys, and they'll stick their you-know-what in anything." While discussing her affair with Powell, she said at one point they had carried out these acts on police property. She said, "I just gave him a you-know-what job in the substation. Me and my husband were kind of on the verge of a divorce, and I just cracked, and then it just kind of got out of hand." Powell initially denied the relationship, but later admitted to it, claiming in the latest lawsuit that the then police chief, Davis, had told him to lie about it at first. The probe led to both Hall and Powell, as well as Patrol Officer Juan Lugo, Detective Seneca Shields, Sergeant Ty McGowan, and eventually even the police chief, Davis, who initially led the inquiry, all losing their jobs. McGowan was the source of the original whistleblower tip received by Laverne Mayor Jason Cole's office. Patrol Officer Patrick Magliglico, Canine Officer Larry Holliday, and Patrol Officer Gavin Schoberl, who traded nude pictures with Hall, were also suspended. In the aftermath, Hall claimed that she had been sexually groomed by her predator superiors and had tried to kill herself. She filed her own lawsuit earlier this year, claiming that Sergeant Powell positioned himself as a reliable source of companionship and advice regarding Mrs. Hall's career and her marriage. The lawsuit said Sergeant Powell persisted in requests for Essex despite Mrs. Hall's resistance. Eventually, Miss Hall gave in to Sergeant Powell's request for Essex favors. But she said when she tried to stop that Powell threatened to kill himself. The lawsuit reads, Sergeant Powell was crying and told Miss Hall he drank an entire bottle of Jack Daniels whiskey. He threatened to kill himself, told Miss Hall. You did this to me, and asserted that Miss Hall was responsible for his imminent suicide. Hall said the exploitive sexual relationship with Powell is what led to other sexual encounters involving other officers. She also claimed in the suit that Police Chief Chip Davis was no better than his subordinates, inviting Hall on lunch dates, asking her to come into his office to dance for him, and questioning whether she preferred dark white or milk chocolate. It later emerged that Davis had shared explicit videos of Hall and made sexist comments on a secret burner phone he nicknamed Old Boy. Davis feigned surprise as he oversaw the internal inquiry into the scandal. But the court filings obtained by DailyMail.com revealed that Davis knew all about the events before the inquiry and had even pestered one of his sergeants to send him video of Hall playing with herself. Throughout the year 2022, Officer Hall slept around with a number of other police officers, the lawsuit reads. The suit also claims that Hall then had a mental breakdown, and Laverne Mayor Jason Cole found out that she was sleeping with multiple officers and decided to get to the bottom of the situation and uncover every juicy detail. It says that she is suing the city, the mayor said, Jason Cole, Laverne HR Director Andrew Patton, and former Police Chief Chip Davis for racial discrimination, claiming $3 million in damage as well as front and back pay. The complaint alleges that the city terminated and defamed all the officers involved except those who were white and male, based on at least partly on racial prejudice. The rafts of firing and disciplinary measures triggered by Hall's antics meant that Laverne, a population of 39,000, lost around 12% of its police manpower overnight. Petite Hall grew up in rural Tennessee, dreaming of becoming an actress, but eventually found her calling in law enforcement, a career that barely lasted 2 years. Despite his wife's infidelities, she and Jedediah are still living together at their home in Manchester, 60 miles south of Nashville, their first marital property, which they bought a year ago. The couple have been sweethearts since their college days and got married around November 2018. I don't know how he's doing it. He's more of a man than I am, but he's trying to salvage his marriage, Jedediah's boss, Coffee County Sheriff Chad Parton, told Daily Mail last month. So Jedediah, who is, if you follow the story, is her husband, is Mrs. Hall's husband, and he is actually in law enforcement also as a sheriff's deputy, Maegan's husband. And there's questions on whether he knew about this tryst or not, or what was going on. I think that this young lady, 28 years old, is suffering from some kind of mental illness to allow that to take place. I think she was old enough to know better, and then she took the victim role in the end. I don't think that. I think there is a viable case for a lawsuit in the sense that you should not, as a superior, make an inferior person feel that they have to do stuff for their job. Was it a form of harassment? Absolutely. Do I think that she was an active, conscious participant and there's something that is lacking in her life for her to allow 6 separate officers outside of her husband within the same department, and her husband is in law enforcement? for this to take place. There is something that was definitely lacking in her heart and in her soul, and whether it's low self-esteem or what you call it, there's a duality of responsibility here. Were those career officers that have been on the force longer than she was, were they wrong and insubordinate for pressuring that young lady or teasing her to commit these kinds of sexual misconduct acts, starting with one person and then leading to 6 or 7? Absolutely. I think that many men, from a masculine dominant standpoint, can sense and smell out a victim, so to speak. And I think with her age in comparison to them, they found a naive, insecure, confused woman, and they took advantage of it. And that is a form of harassment. I don't think there was any kind of R involved because she agreed to participate in these liaisons, but I do feel that she was sexually harassed and was pressured. And these officers all knew better. And many of them were married also. So you have infidelity going on. Maegan Hall was married. And this is just goes to show you here again, whether there is a police officer committing heinous crime or hateful crime against an innocent civilian is something that's not good, or we're not as a society going to stand for. We need good police officers, but also this is just as egregious. They were having these liaisons on the clock, on departmental property. It seems like their energy was more focused on their active participation in misconduct versus public safety in the city that they were supposed to be policing. They had huge distractions. I mean, just think if there was an emergency call in the middle of one of their raunchy incidences, how are they going to get to that call immediately? I think as a police officer, as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a teacher, when you're on the job, you need to be completely focused on the task at hand. You're only there for 8 or 10 hours. That's your job and responsibility. You made a commitment as a mature adult to protect and serve, and they were too busy participating in ancillary activity that had nothing to do with their job. I think she does have a right for a lawsuit and a settlement, and I think her active participation in it also required for her to get fired. So she did have to take some accountability for it. There's responsibility and accountability on both sides, with the superior male officers and with herself also being a married woman. You're 28 years old. You should know better. You're married to a person in law enforcement. So she should have known better, and I think there is something that's lacking in her soul to allow those individuals to take advantage of her in that kind of way. So mental illness is real. I don't care what job or what you do for a living. And if you feel that you're having some strain and some difficulties, you should reach out and get help. But this is a really, really bizarre story straight out of Tennessee, where we had a Tennessee cop gone wild. Maegan Hall, 28 years old, settled a lawsuit in Laverne for $500,000, and then several officers, including the chief, got fired as a result of this. We need better policing. We need better police officers. The vetting process. I know the numbers are down across the country in many of our major cities, where there is a need for more police officers. Same way with correctional officers. The same way with nurses. The same way with our teachers. We have a severe drought of great moral and ethical, wanting to work individuals going into law enforcement, education, nursing, correctional officers. So public safety is very fragile at this particular time in our country, and we have to pay very close attention. There's too many guns on the street. Gun violence is up, shoplifting and looting, assaults are up. Many people, many criminals do not fear that they're going to get arrested and go to jail unless it's a murder. Anything beneath that, the spirit out in the communities are that the police are not going to actively go after you, and especially for minor crimes. And we're seeing that in New York, Chicago, California, all over the place. So we have to change this complete narrative that's taking place in America, or we're going to have an underbelly of unrest. And then when you have these police officers participating in this kind of tryst, instead of taking care of the public safety of their community, that puts a black eye on policing, on this particular department. You know, the rumor mill and the gossip mill has gone all through that town, and there's going to be a higher level of disrespect for that department, which is going to lead to making their jobs even more difficult. The fired cops, and then even Maegan Hall will go on with their lives, but that department will still be there because they have to canvass and protect that community. And character assassination, and it might take a lifetime to build a reputation, but it takes 1 day, 1 second, 1 hour to destroy it. And that's what we see that has taken place here. So I think there was accountability definitely on 28-year-old Maegan Hall. I think there's something that she was lacking, some insecurity for her to allow those things to take place. I think there was definitely accountability for her superior officers to go ahead and perpetrate and to take advantage of that scenario and even threaten her with her job if she didn't participate in these acts. And I think that the department did the right thing by firing all of them, and hopefully they can do a better job at trying. It's a guessing game when you hire folks. You don't know exactly what they look like on paper. It might take a few years to figure out if they're the right cop, police officer, or employee. So there's not total responsibility on the department or HR. I mean, those things happen, that we're all human beings, and you just never know what you're going to get. That includes even when you date or marry somebody, vetting that person. It takes time to figure out, are they who they say they are, internally and externally. But anyway, tell me what you think about this case. Cop Gone Wild 28 gets $500,000 payday after suing the city and the police department, saying that she was groomed by her predatory superiors, and she was fired for inappropriate romps with at least 7 officers while she was married, and many of them were married. Tell me what you think. This has been a Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.